Welcome to episode 7 of Momsley Podcast.
What's up? We're your hosts. I'm Krishel.
And I'm Nyamekye.
All right, episode 7. What's up?
All right. I can't believe it's been 7 weeks of us doing this.
Yeah, that's
no
crazy.
breaks.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so you already know our little tradition now. We're going to start off with a Would You Rather.
All right, let's go.
So, would you rather have more time in a day, or would you rather just have more money?
Is there a catch?
There's no catch. What you want? You want more time or you want more money?
I'm going to take the money. I don't need more time in a day if I got money. Because the only time I would need more time is to make more money in a day. But if you're just giving me the money, I'm going to take it.
But if you get more money like that, but not have more time, that means you spend it quicker. And who's to say that money's going to like replenish itself?
At this point in my life, I'm going to take the money. I don't need longer days because my toddler is approaching that terrible 2 stage, and I be praying for bedtime. So I don't need more time in a day. I just need more money. What about you?
Me, honestly, I could take either. But if I had to choose one, I think I'm also going to take more money.
I already know a few things I could pay for.
I could use more time in a day because the days just be flying by, to be honest. They just be flying by. But also, I could use some money.
Right.
So, yeah.
The way things is set up right now, like, I could already name, 10 things off the top of my head that money could help me with.
I'm not even going to use the money for, nothing helpful, to be honest. I'm trying to, go on vacation.
I'm going to Jamaica. See you later.
Shopping. I'm going to just be real. I wasn't even thinking about paying my bills or nothing.
Well, when I say bills, we're wedding planning. So, I know, I would give myself the dream wedding if somebody gave me more money.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily mean, I'm going to pay my phone bill or pay my rent. My pay might cut is that. I'm going to pay for my dream wedding.
Yeah, I'm going
and my dream honeymoon.
Yeah. All right. So today we thought we would give you guys an episode where we just venting today. Whatever we want to talk about, that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay.
All right. AKA podcast block because we didn't know what to talk about today.
Right. All right. But for real though, the first thing I do want to touch on though is mommy fails. I feel like every parent has these moments where you're like, dang, I was a really bad parent during that moment. Let me redo that so I can get my mommy cookies back because I messed it up. Mm-hmm. So I'll start first. There was one time we went to it was sort of a zoo type of thing. It wasn't like a zoo, but they had animals, these, what is it called? These extravagant different type of animals, right? So it wasn't your typical elephants and giraffe and things like that. It was these different animals, right? So we get to a certain part and they have these, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was in the monkey family. Mm-hmm. And they're enclosed in this cage, right? Cool. It ain't nothing crazy. So I'm walking and there's this one monkey or ape, whatever it was, that was sort of secluded in its own cage from the rest of everybody else. So we were like, oh, this one must be a really interesting. And he did have sort of different type of features, right? So everybody's like, oh, let's go look at this one because, he's different. So we're looking at him oh, look at that. And then he's picking stuff up and trying to throw it at us. And everybody's laughing. He's putting on a show. He knows what he's doing, right? He's smart. So we were like, okay, that was cool. So the group we were with, most of everybody started walking away, including my kids. They start walking away. And And I was like towards the end of the group. So I'm like one of the last people to like, walk away from this monkey thing, right? So we're like, okay, moving on to the next animal. I guess he wasn't okay with that. He wasn't done putting on his show. So he got mad. And he jumped from his stand that he was on onto the cage. I thought he was about to get out. He held onto the gate and started rocking it where the lock was. And it made because his cage, he was secluded, but the cage was connected to everybody else's cage. The whole enclosement started shaking. He was strong. And it goes like over your head sort of. So the whole thing is shaking. And in my head, for whatever reason, I'm like, oh shoot, he got out. I didn't even think about my kids. I took off running and left my kids behind. And the youngest one, she was probably like 2 at the time. She's crying. She's like, mommy, because she doesn't do good with loud noise. Like she likes animals, but not when they acting crazy like that. So she's scared out of her mind. I'm a good mile away at this point. She's like, Mom, I'm like, oh shoot, the kids. And so I turned around and ran back for them. But I was like, wow. Like, when you hear all these stories and you're like, oh, well, I would have done this and I would have done that.
Girl, you never know what you're going to do until you're in the moment.
I thought my life was over.
Because I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm like, why are you even still standing there trying to see what he doing? Like, my ass would have took off from the time he started rattling and shaking.
Oh, my gosh. I was going and finally it hit me. I was like, oh, shoot, my kids. Let me go back for this.
Survive. They better figure it out. You see me running? You better figure out how to run behind me.
I was like, that was a mommy fail. Like, wow. Like, grab the kids, right? Just grab the kids and then run.
I have a similar story. So, like, my fiance is always like, he's like the adventure type. Like, he's always trying to like find like these off-roading trails and stuff to go in. So when we lived in Connecticut, there was this place called Yale Forest. And there's like, it's pretty much like dirt roads, but it's like just like a forest. It's a forest, but there's dirt roads, but like some of it is like kind of hard to drive over because there's like rocks and stuff in the road, or there might be like big puddles. And it's like these kind of puddles is like if you go in, you don't know if you might come back out, but he's adventurous and he gonna do it anyways. But we were driving and one day we decided to take like another path within the forest beside the usual path that we usually go. And we found like a stream and it was kind of like a waterfall. So we pulled over and we got out the car and we were sitting like on the rocks and stuff that were near it. Girl, at the time, it was just my oldest. I only had 2 kids at the time. So it was my daughter and then my oldest son. And I had him, he was like a baby at the time. Like, well, maybe not a baby. He was like a toddler. He was like 1 or 2. And I had him sitting in my lap. And I looked over and saw what I thought at the time was the biggest snake I have ever seen in my life. When I tell you, I forgot I had kids. Like, I took off running and screaming. And he's looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, there's a snake. I don't do snakes. I hate snakes. Like, if you're trying to have me drop down from a heart attack, just bring a snake in my environment. Like, I don't do garden snakes. I don't do any kind of snake. Forgot I had kids, took off. I was back at the car by the time I turned around and looked to see where the rest of them was at.
Oh my gosh.
He was like, you're not going to come get the kids? I'm like, you better bring them over here because I'm not coming back over there. You got me messed
animals. Up. I don't even blame you.
I don't do snakes. I don't do worms. Like anything like that that's like slithering around. Like, no, thank you.
No, thank you.
Nope.
I'll pass.
I was out of there. I barely even do my dog.
That where you said that there was like a stream, that reminded me of when I was younger, how we used to just be so adventurous and we would just like go places that our parents knew nothing about, first of all. But we would just explore and like find all these things that were like untouched by man. But because we
Isn't
were
that the
curious
best part
little
about
kids,
being a kid?
Exactly. But that like makes me think like I feel like this generation of children that's coming up, like, they don't have those experiences. Like, me and my friends, let me tell you, me and my friends, especially when I moved to the South, the friends that I had, we were some adventurous little children. We would like go, I wouldn't dare do this today because I feel like back then I didn't have like a phobia of bugs like I do now and animals and stuff. But yeah, when I was younger, things like that didn't bother me. So we would like go into the woods and just keep going, like knowing good and well we weren't supposed to be in there. But one time we found this creek. And that was like the new hangout spot for everybody that lived in my neighborhood. Like we would go to this creek, like there was no way. Like the bad part about it though, like if something ever happened, nobody would have ever known. It was so deep into the woods and far away from society. Like nobody
was there
would
phone
ever
service?
Know. Honestly, did I even have a phone back then? I don't know. I don't think so.
Because when we used to go into this forest, like, I used to be scared as hell because there was no phone service. Like, if the car broke down or something, like, a bear attacked us, like, there was no cell service in there because it's just covered by trees. It's in the middle of nowhere.
Honestly, back then, I feel like that was one of the best things about being a kid. Like, we were, at least back in our generation, because kids these days, they're like 5 years old with a cell phone. But back then, like, we weren't so into, like, having our phone, being on social media. Like, we weren't like, oh, let's go out here and take this Instagram picture real quick. Like, we weren't doing that. We were just, like, in the moment, enjoying the moment.
Yeah, and if you had a phone, it was strictly for calling and texting. And it was the struggle text where you're pressing one button 3 times to get the right letter.
Like, let me get to this Z 999.
Right. And if you did take a picture with those kinds of phones, it'll be like now looking back, those pictures look so blurry. I'm like, what the heck?
Like you couldn't even get the essence of what was going on.
Right. It wasn't happening.
Yeah, but I feel like kids these days, they're just not, and I don't even think it's their fault, to be honest. I think, at least for myself, like, I'm very protective of my children. So first of all, I'm gonna know where they are. Like, they're not gonna be ducking off like I was as a kid, like going into the woods and I don't know where you are, and then you come back home later and I'm like, yeah, I was just outside.
But I also feel like the kids these days are like different. Like, I feel like my kids would get lost in the backyard.
Truly, I feel like we had an internal GPS. Like, we just knew.
Yeah,
and it's okay, let's go this way or this way, and then we could find our way back home.
Yeah, and I feel like we were a lot more mature for like when we were growing up than they are today. Like, I can't even find the words. Honestly,
I think that was another thing. I feel like our parents sort of had an inkling that we weren't always just around the block. Like, we were out doing things that we probably shouldn't have been doing, but I feel like they trusted us because they knew we had a sense of maturity to us. Yeah. That it's like, okay, they'll be okay. Like, my kids, it's not even that I don't trust them. It's just like, y'all not going out of my sight.
Right. And it's like, we're more aware of like all the things in the world now. And it's just with the sex trafficking and all the trafficking. Like, I don't have time for that. Not my babies. They're going to stay in the house with me.
Okay. Yeah, it's just, and it's not even to say that the world wasn't crazy when we were younger, but I think, I've said this before, I think with social media and easy access to things and to people, it just makes it that much easier.
Girl, the other day, I don't even know how I ended. I was like looking into like doing a website for our wedding because I'm like, okay, a website would be easier for everybody to like see where the wedding is. Like, I'm planning on putting like all the information on there. So I was like, a website is the way to go. So I Googled my name and his name to see if the website would come up because I wanted to make sure it was working, you know, before I start sending stuff to people. And I Googled it and my name comes up on this strange website. So I clicked the website. Mind you, this is like 1 o'clock at night. I should have been sleeping. I don't know why I was up doing this. So I click on a strange website and my whole government is on this website. My middle name, every single address I've lived at. They have if I'm married. They're like, and then they have the audacity at the bottom of the website, like after they done listed all my relatives, every single address I've ever lived at, who I've lived with, they had the audacity to write like a little summary on the bottom, like a little essay, like, oh, well, Nyamekye is such and such years old. She resides at such and such address. She's a single woman. And I'm like, this is how people get kidnapped.
Yeah.
Because some creep could just be, or like somebody who's like obsessed with you could literally Google your name. And then that had me thinking, like, I'm about to change my name on Facebook because I have my real name on Facebook. And I'm like, well, I'm about to change it because nobody not about to come get me.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, one of the doctors I work with, she doesn't, like, when the Alexa first came out, she was like, oh, I'm definitely not getting that. She was like, then the government gonna be in my house, everybody's gonna know, people gonna have access to me, this, that, and that. And I'm thinking, like, honestly,
you have a cell phone.
Has access to you. Like, it's not that hard these days. Even if you're one of those people that's like me, or used to be me before this podcast, that is like, I'm not really into social media and things like that. People still have access to you, whether you think they do or not. It's not that hard these days.
It really isn't, especially if you have an uncle who's your cousin, my uncle, who be posting everything on the interwebs before you even like... Before I blink, it's on the internet. And I'm like, you gonna get somebody in trouble. Because one time my cousin had came to visit me during COVID, like last year when it was the shutdown. And she's not supposed to come where I live because her job, like, we were considered like high risk state or something like that. So her job was like, these are the list of places that you're not allowed to go at all, period, the end. And he posted her and tagged her on Facebook. I'm like... So even if you're not putting it out there, somebody else is putting it out there. Yeah. Which is why I have to like approve who can tag me in certain things, or because I don't need my whole business on the internet.
Right.
Because it's as you can see, it's already there. My address, my phone number, my relatives. It's scary.
It's crazy. And then you hear, like, I used to be one of those people, like, I love watching the news just because I like to know what's going on and things like that. But it just comes to a point, like, it's crazy in these streets. It's crazy. Like, I remember hearing, this was a few years back, but one girl had went missing for probably like a decade or something like that. And come to find out, the person that kidnapped her, oh, this is about to get deep, trigger warning. The person that kidnapped her was actually the school bus driver.
You're kidding.
She was actually still within, like, the community, like, within a few blocks of where she lived the whole time. And on top of that, he had kidnapped, I believe it was probably, like, about 5 of them in the house. And they had been missing for years upon years upon years.
What
and he had them, I believe, in the basement. And this is somebody, like I said, he was a school bus driver, so it's somebody that people knew. It's not like he was somebody that nobody knew, this mysterious person or nothing like that, you know? His house wasn't like by itself. They weren't like on all these acres where nobody had access to them. He had neighbors all around him. They saw him every day. People would come to his house. He would have people over and nobody never knew anything. One of the girls ended up getting pregnant.
By him?
By him. She had a miscarriage, and then it was either the same girl or another girl ended up getting pregnant, had the baby in the house, and he started taking care of all the not taking care of, but you know, she had the baby, and the baby was with the rest of these girls that were kidnapped. And it wasn't until one day, and I think they even like little details, like the only thing they ate was McDonald's. He would get them McDonald's every day. That's it.
That's nasty.
And one of the girls was actually special needs. I think she was the one that ended up getting pregnant, if I'm not mistaken. So like they already had all this stuff going on. One day after all these years, he left the house, and they had tried to escape before, but whenever they tried to escape, they would get caught. And he would abuse them, or he would put more locks on, whatever the case was. They weren't allowed to go outside. because they had neighbors. He had neighbors. So it wasn't like he could just send them in the backyard to get fresh air, whatever the case was, because then people would be like, who are all these girls, you know?
Yeah.
So they were just in the house. And whenever they tried to escape, he would abuse them. But the oldest girl, the one that lived not far from the house, she was able to escape one day. And I want to say it was like the neighbor's phone or somebody random on the street. She got their phone, calls 911. She's like, the other thing he would do is he would put on the news. And whenever they had coverage about, another person went missing or coverage, he would make them watch it. So they're watching about themselves. Yes. So they're watching people like, have you seen such and such? Crazy. So she gets the phone and she calls 911. She's like, this is my name. I've been missing. And the 911 operator is like, I wouldn't say she thought it was a joke, but she wasn't grasping what she was trying to communicate to her. Yeah. She's like, this is where I am. She's like, also, this girl is here. This girl is here. She's like, we've been missing. So finally, the 911 operator is like, okay, just stay on the phone with me. Like, let me figure this out. Like, what did you say your name was? Because it had been so long. The girl that was calling, she had been missing the longest. So, like, coverage on her had, like, went silent. So it wasn't like she could say her name and automatically they knew who she was talking about, you know. But it was crazy. They finally was able to rescue all of them. He got arrested, but it was just like, this is the bus driver. He's out every day. It's not like some strange person that's tucked, or like, people knew him.
That is sick. Because it's like you're trusting these people with your kids and they're the ones that's harming them. You can't trust anybody.
You can't trust nobody out here.
But that story reminded me of a movie that I saw on Lifetime. It's called Girl in the Basement. Have you seen it? It's a really good movie if you're not easily, like, triggered. So basically the gist of the movie is there's this girl. I forgot her name. I think it's Elizabeth, but I'm not sure if that's the name they use in the movie, if that's her real name. But we'll go with Elizabeth. And so her dad is like one of those like really strict parents, and her mom is like the kind of parent who can't stand up to the father. So she had asked her mom to go to a party, and her mom was like, yeah, sure, you can go. But then when the dad got home and they're having dinner, and then she was like, well, you know, I'm going to this party tonight or whatever. And the dad is like, well, you can't go. And she's like, but mom said I can go already. And she's like, basically, he's like, I don't care what mom said. Like, I said, you're not going. So like, because of the household that she grew up in, she was like, okay, when I turn 18, when I graduate from high school, like, I'm out of here. Well, that's not what happened. And this is actually based on a true story. So you can Google it and see, and like, you know, see how her life ended up. But pretty much the case is she turned 18 and the dad was walking around telling everybody like, oh, she ran off with some guy or something like that she met somewhere. She had a boyfriend in high school. And I don't remember if he told them that she ran off with him or if she ran off with like some other random guy that she met. And that was a story that he was telling everybody. And then, but the whole time he had the girl locked in his basement. So like he lured her down there and he had built like this whole secret room that was like soundproof and stuff, and lured her down there and locked her in the basement. So her mom is like depressed, going crazy. Like they think she's missing or like she's dead or whatever the case is. Whole time she's in the house with them. And he rapes her. She has like multiple kids for him. And then, I don't know if I should tell the end of the story, but she ends up getting away, but it's like years later. At one point, she even had a baby, and somehow she convinced the father to let the baby live upstairs with the mother and him. So, like, they planned this whole thing. They, like, it was like Moses, kind of. They put the baby in a basket, put a blanket over it, and left, and he must have, like, left it at the front door somehow without the neighbors seeing. And then the mother opened the door and there's this baby in a basket. But she messed up because the dad saw the baby, lifted the baby up out of the basket. Or I think the mother lifted the baby out and there was a note right under the baby pleading for help.
Oh my gosh. And he found it.
He found the note and then went downstairs and whooped her ass and raped her again. Gosh. And then when I Googled disgusting. Like the true story of like what really happened, they were saying like some of the kids, there was one of the kids who like walked and like hunched over because the room that he had them locked in wasn't even like big enough for them to stand up straight.
That's crazy.
Her own father.
That's crazy. Sick.
A sick man. You really have to be a sick individual to rape your own daughter. Not once, not twice, but multiple times.
Even the thought of doing that is sick.
It's sick.
Yeah, it's just... People are just crazy. People need help. I'm gonna just say that. People need help. Yes. Or even like the one... Well, I don't know if this was a Lifetime movie or Netflix or something. I never watched it because just hearing about it, I was disturbed. So I can't even remember the name of it. You've probably seen it before. It was pretty popular. But the story about the girl who...
went missing in the field?
I don't know if it was a field, but so there was a girl, I think she had a sibling, and then her parents were home. Mm-hmm. The mom started having an affair with the neighbor. So he would be over a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Because the dad, I guess, it's like I said, I didn't see the movie, but I guess the dad is at work. So the neighbor would be over. And the dad was cool with the neighbor. So it wasn't strange that the neighbor was in the house. But the mom and the neighbor were having an affair. So he was over the house a lot. And the strange part is the neighbor started getting close with her kids. So he would ask for them to come over. And I believe he was married as well. So the neighbor would ask for the kids to come over to his house. He had children as well. But it wouldn't be like, he probably worded it that way, but his kids weren't asking for the kids to come over. He was asking for the kids to come over. But I guess because he had kids, it was like, oh, okay, no big deal. So he started sleeping in the room with the daughter, right? No, they knew this, but apparently they're like, oh, that's just Johnny from next door.
That is not
like,
okay.
We're cool. Not okay. Then he starts molesting her, leads to rape and all this kind of stuff. But he started grooming her. So it wasn't like he was just attacking her and she was like, oh my gosh, he groomed her. So she was like, oh, this is normal. And of course, her parents weren't like, hey, something seems weird. Is everything okay? So she's not thinking, oh, this is something bad. Mm-hmm. Fast forward a little bit. He starts having an affair with the father.
Oh, so he's just sleeping with the whole family.
He's sleeping with the whole family. So obviously the wife didn't know at this point that he's now having an affair with her husband. And all this while, he's still grooming this little girl. Fast forward, he ends up, I don't even know if it was kidnapping, because I guess they knew that he took her, but takes the girl. They go to who knows where, and it was just the strangest of strange, disturbing things ever. Because you're having an affair. Oh, and then he didn't take her once, he took her twice. The first time, they were gone for an extended period of time. And then finally, the parents were like, where's our daughter? You know?
Is this like while she's still a minor?
Yes. She's still a minor. I think at this point, she was a little older, but I believe she was still a minor. And then he takes her again, because I remember everybody was like, but you let it happen a second time? Like, I think at this point, the affairs between them were over. And I think the husband and the wife found out that whatever.
He was sleeping with them.
Right. But it was just weird. And I think at that point, too, the girl had got a liking to him. So she wanted to be around him. It wasn't like he was forcing her, you know? This disturbing. People are just...
Now, see, in this whole story, he's the predator and her parents, because no neighbor is going to be sleeping in the same bed with my daughter or sleeping in the same room with her. And I'm just like, oh, it's okay. They're not even going to be in the same house. That's my neighbor. I don't care how close we are.
No.
That is sick. See, this is why our parents never let us go to nobody's sleepover.
Okay, I remember one of my uncles used to tell my cousin, our family, outside of people, just, you can't trust people, our family was big on, I'm paying the bills in this house. you want to go sleep over somewhere else, then what am I paying bills here for? Like, what do I have this house for? For you to sleep somewhere else? No, you're about to stay right in this house. Sleep over what? No. No. The only sleepovers we were having with each other.
Right, and even that sometimes used to be the struggle to get the other one to come over.
We used to beg. We used to have to plot
beg. Like, okay, you go ask your grandma, and I'll ask my grandma.
Oh my gosh, we used to have to beg to. Anyway.
And our grandmothers are sisters, and we still used to have to go through the whole shebang just to get a sleepover. Like,
just to get a sleepover. And I feel like honestly, I feel like they knew they were gonna say yes, but they made us work for it. Like, they just like to torture us that way.
Of course, because there was never time that they really said no.
Ever. But they would be like, okay, just one night, just packing up for one day, and then a week later I'm there with no clothes because because they let me stay. Like, yeah.
I miss our childhood.
At the time, it was very annoying because we used to be like, well, you really used to have to come up with like a whole plan. Like, okay, this is the day we're going to do it. This is what we're going to say.
And then, you gotta wait till certain times of the day to ask for stuff. Like, you gotta wait until they eat dinner. They can't be asking them stuff when they hungry and they cranky.
Or when they cleaning, like, don't interrupt them when they cleaning or cooking or nothing.
You have to we used to have to scheme for the right time. The right plan and the right time.
Yes. Oh, man.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I feel like now it's reversed. Now we're like, you don't want to go play with your cousin? Like, you don't want to go?
These kids, it's the electronic age. They don't care about none of that.
Yes.
They're like, what I need to go over there for when I could FaceTime them?
Right. Exactly. We didn't have FaceTime growing up. So it was like, man, I'm trying to see you.
Right.
That's like literally my youngest was like, oh, I miss my cousin. She was like, okay, can I FaceTime later? I was like, oh, you're going to see them soon. Like, you'll see them again. She's like, can I FaceTime them? Like, that'll solve it. Let me just FaceTime real quick.
Right. It'll fix the itch for now.
I'm thinking like, okay, we got to plan a trip. So she's like, oh, FaceTime? Okay.
And then they're over it.
Then they're good. So let's move into the hot topic for today. We're gonna actually extend this venting session because that's all this is about to be.
Because I cannot understand what's going on in the media these days.
It's crazy. Like I said, crazy people need help. Like, what is going on? What hot topic you want to start with today?
I think I'm gonna start with this whole DaBaby debacle because
DaBaby debacle.
Girl, I cannot. So supposedly, I don't know which festival or concert or something he went to and made like this whole anti-gay speech or whatever on the stage, and HIV, if you got HIV, then you need to get out. Like just rambling about nonsense. So now it's like all over the media, like he's being canceled by like all these labels, well, like companies, like clothing companies, like they're just all dropping him because of the things that he's saying in the media. But supposedly he issued an apology, but like in his apology, he started doubling down and reverting back to what he was saying before. Now, I feel like everybody's entitled to their opinions, but DaBaby should know that he is an artist. He is, he's an influencer. Mm-hmm. He's somebody that's in the media. Like, if I say something like that, like, not that I ever would, but if I said something like that, it would go as far as Facebook and then people forget about it because nobody knows me.
Yeah.
Like, DaBaby can't just go around saying stuff like that and just think people are going to sweep it under the rug and nobody's going to do anything about it. Like, I feel like he should have kept his mouth shut because now he don't know how he going to be paying his bills because nobody wants to work with him.
Exactly. And he, before he issued the apology, which is a whole nother thing, he literally was like, because people were like, boy, you about to get canceled. And he
Really?
was like, I said what I said. I don't care. F all y'all. Like, and people, he said something to the effect of, people still going to be checking for me, this, that, and the third. Fast forward to this apology. First of all, I would just like to say, I know. I don't know, but I know. He ain't write that apology. I feel like somebody on his team was like, sir, you messing up my check now. So I'm going to write this little apology for you. I'm going to sign your name at the end, and that's what it's going to be.
That's why he started out apologizing and then ended up doubling back down to what he was doing before, because he's like, this ain't me.
he said what he said, and that's what he meant. And the companies was like, I understand. Everything you said, yep, canceled. This contract, null and void.
I feel like I saw somebody bring up a topic and they were like how all these companies are kind of like hypocrites because they're all canceling him for believing what he believes and all this stuff. And it's like just a few years ago, like all these companies were the same way. Like they weren't standing so strong with the LGBTQ community. They weren't standing so strong with the Black community. But now that it's the thing to do, now they're all doing it.
And
they probably still feel the way they feel. They probably don't care about the LGBTQ plus community or Black people, but because they know they're going to get canceled if they don't.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like they honestly probably just don't care, but they're going with the trend. This is the trend right now. So this is what we're going to back. The problem is, even if they agree with somebody like the baby, they're going to say, okay, well, our fan base now, the people that's helping us make money, does not agree with that. So guess what? You the one that's going to get kicked to the curb. Because the people that's helping this company stay afloat does not agree with what you're doing. So goodbye to you. That little check we were trying to give you and what you was bringing to the table, it's not helping us no more. So you got to go.
Yeah, and they were like how... I think it was Academics. Let me see if I could find what he said. So Academics is basically saying that the baby's arrogance is what's making the backlash worse. So he posted on Twitter and he was like, I F with the baby. And then he was like, at this point, though, I don't think it's about his comments. Him and others in hip hop have said worse things, not justifying them. However... My page just jumped. However, I think this is one of them last stands for cancel culture. He apologized, but basically acted like he was too big to cancel.
Exactly. Because he sure was like, because people tried to warn him, like, you might want to retract or just, calm down a little bit. He was like, nah. Like, he was like, I'm the baby. Y'all going to be checking for me. Y'all still going to be streaming my music.
He must not have saw what happened to R. Kelly.
And it's like, you became a thing during cancel culture, so you should know better.
Right.
Like, you should know just like that you could be out the door.
He definitely has some arrogance about him. Like, that's not really helping the situation. Like, even people like actors who came out that were racist, and we've heard them say racist things, like, they apologized and try to rebuild their image and move on. Regardless of what they say in their home, they might still be racist at home, but at least they figured out, like, I need to leave that shit at home, but once I come outside, this is how I need to act to pay these bills.
Right. Yep.
It's just crazy to me.
That's crazy. All right, who's the next crazy person on the docket? Oh, here we go again with Dr. Dre. Here we go. And he just our resident hot topic on Mom's League.
Right. I feel like I've always heard, like, in the media, like, not so good things about Dr. Dre. Like, I've always got the feeling like he's not really a nice person.
Outside of the business of Dr. Dre, it's mostly negative stuff that I've experienced on the internets. So now Dr. Dre's daughter is in the news because she's like, yeah, my daddy, Dr. Dre, but also I'm homeless living in my car.
His 38-year-old daughter. So she's his oldest daughter.
38-year-old daughter, yeah. Like, what? First of all, See, I may be a little skewed because I always compare things to my life and compare things and look at it through the lens of like my life. In this situation, I'm looking through the lens of my family. Regardless of what goes on, unless you like do something like what we're talking about with all these Lifetime movies, or you kill somebody. Like, I feel like our family, regardless of what's going on, you're not about to be homeless.
Yeah, you always got a place to go.
You're not about to be living out your car.
My dad he bought a house a few years ago, and when he bought the house, I was grown. I was already living on my own, and I walked in the house, and he was like, "Yeah, this is your room," and I'm like, "Okay." And every time I go there, like, the bed is made and ready and everything for me. So I'm like, okay. So it's like, I know, if anything, I always have a home.
I feel like what event transpired to where you cut your child off?
Yeah, and from the sounds of it, it sounds like, I think she said she hasn't communicated with him in years. Like, it's been a long time. Like, she has to communicate with him through his lawyer.
Crazy. That's crazy. Like, what could have possibly happened that you cutting your kids off?
Right. And she's saying that...
And to the point where you're home, she's homeless now. She has kids.
4 of them. And they're all staying with friends and family. And she's out here trying to do Uber and DoorDash to try to make ends meet while living in her car. That she says she can barely afford to keep. It's not even her car, it's a rental.
It's
sick. That's another form of just being sick.
Right.
Like, he's worth $800 million and you have a homeless child. Like, make it make sense.
And you also have to think, because you hear situations like Master P, who he's sort of in relation with his daughter. But if I'm not mistaken, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe she was doing drugs, and their relationship, they just started clashing a lot. And so she wasn't, she didn't have a relationship with him like Romeo has with him, you know, and she doesn't have the appearance like the other children do, because she's like, man, forget all y'all. And they're like, well, forget you. Like, if you're not gonna represent yourself the way we want you to represent you, then that's it. But it's like, also, you have to think, like, and I'm not saying when you're an adult, you make your own decisions. But I do believe, to a certain extent, like, it's a reflection of your parenting. Like, what if if your child did something to you, or did something that you don't agree with, you will have to look at yourself and say, okay, did I raise this person to stray away from this, or was this from a lack of parenting or ill parenting on my part? You know? Like, what led them in that direction?
Yeah, there's a lot. And then she was saying that, like, the money that Nicole got, which is his soon-to-be ex-wife, she was like, how that was supposed to be her mother. So it sounds like there's some bitterness there, but, like... And she's also saying that the reason why he doesn't talk to her is because she's spoken about him in the media. If you don't like what people have to say about you in the media, then don't give them a reason to speak.
Yeah. And again, like I said, like that would, as a parent, that's like a line that I'm like, okay, why are you talking about family in the media, especially in a negative way? But also, you're my child. We're going to sit down. We're going to hash this out. Like, clearly you're feeling some type of way to even go do that. Like, what is missing here?
That's what I was going to say. Like, you need to figure out what even got it to that point where she decided, like, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to bring this to the media.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a sad situation.
Yeah. Regardless of the fact that she's an adult, she's grown, she has her own kids, like, everybody's still somebody's child, so.
Right.
Yes. But on a brighter note, I'm super excited. There's been a lot of reports saying that Rihanna is now a billionaire. That's amazing. That is amazing.
I love Rihanna.
And she's a billion. That's not even including what she has made from her music. This is solely from Fenty Beauty, from Fenty Beauty, and from her lingerie line.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, sis,
with them prices, it's not hard to become a billionaire.
And I think I was listening to, I want to say it was like E! News or something, I don't know. And they were saying, so for Fenty Beauty, she owns 50% of it.
Nice.
And for her lingerie line, she owns 30% of it. So between those two, she is in the billions with an S.
I'm here for it. I just wish I could be like Rihanna's best friend. I feel like we'd be like the best of friends. She's a good time.
Yeah, she is. And that's why, first of all, I know everybody's like, Rihanna, when you come out with new music, it's just like music.
But we need it because she always comes out with a banger. Like her last album, when that album came out, I had just had my son. That was 5 years ago. And I remember playing that album. Like, some songs had me all in my feelings. I used to be in the car like boo-hooing because it just had me all in my feelings. And then one song would just have you ready to like party. Like,
yeah.
There's not, I mean, like her latest music, I don't think I could think of a song that I don't like. Now, Rihanna, when she first came out, I wasn't too fond of like all her music. Like,
I liked Rihanna when she first came out too. Like, I think that her music has definitely changed, but I'm not mad at Rihanna when she first came out. Like, it was still
I liked her music, but it wasn't the same quality that we get now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
like, there wasn't.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, there wasn't, like, now I can listen to her albums and, like, love every song on her album. When she first came out, it was, like, you could tell she didn't have much say in, like, what songs was going on the album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that just goes to show you, like, just because you're good at something doesn't mean, like, that's where you should be. She's good at making music. She's good at singing, but that's not what made her take. I mean, that definitely gave her the stepping stone to be able to do a Fenty Beauty.
Yeah.
Because it gave her the name, it gave her the platform. You know, it may not have been as successful if she didn't do music first.
Yes.
But as she's shown, like, she's stepped away from music. She's focusing on these other things. And it's like, that's where she's prospering the most, at least financially.
Yeah. And like those companies, they're like things that she can sit back and kick her feet up and it's going to make her money versus music. She has to sell, she has to do tours, she has to do promotions. Like there's so much that goes into, because they don't really, especially this day and age where it's a digital age, they don't really make that much money off of album sales and streams. It's all about the tours, the concerts, all of that, merch, all of that. And one thing I will say I love about Rihanna and all her brands is the fact that I'm saying like it's expensive, but like $30 for foundation that's like great quality and stuff like that, like I love it, because $30, like you could waste $30 in a day on something else. But like her stuff, it's a little pricey, but it's still a lot more affordable than like some high-end brands. And I will say, like, I like her because compared to like Beyonce has her deal with Adidas, but I could never see myself spending money on anything that she has with Adidas. Like, it's not worth it to me. And it's like, I feel like Rihanna is more here for like everyday people, where versus Beyonce, like I gotta like be like, okay, I'm not paying my rent this month so I could go see her at a concert.
You have to consciously save to do anything Beyonce. You have to consciously say, okay, I'm gonna put aside this money.
Right. $800 for a ticket to your show for what? I mean, I love you, but I'm gonna wait till like Homecoming when it came on Netflix.
Yeah, don't come for us. It is what it is. The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, her stuff is not for everyday people.
I feel like Rihanna is more a brand for everyday people. I do agree. And even like with her makeup, they were saying this on E! News as well. She made the decision to be all inclusive. She didn't just say this is only for a specific type of person. She said this is for everybody. And the product proved to be for everybody. There wasn't someone who, in my opinion, felt left out. You go to a lot of these makeup brands. I don't personally wear makeup, but you know, you go and you see, like, I could never, my skin tone, I could never.
One thing that irks me is the people who put on foundation and they look like a ghost. Like, because they don't sell the shades that we need.
Because they don't have
Rihanna's the first to do it.
Or you find a shade and then you have to find another shade and you have to mix it together to be like, okay, this is sort of what I look like. This sort of represents me.
Yeah, nobody got time for that.
Right. Rihanna was like, you know, we're gonna do a broad spectrum.
Right. And I'm not trying to compare two wonderful black queens, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, because like Beyonce is the blueprint, I would say.
Yeah, but her stuff just ain't for me. It's too expensive. Yeah. I would love to see her live, but I'm gonna have to save my pennies from now so I could see her when she starts touring again. Because, and the thing is, she is good for a pop-up. Like, sis would be, like, quiet for 6 months and then come out of nowhere one day and be like, oh, concert tomorrow at 6 p.m. Who's in?
Yeah. But I'm so happy for Rihanna. I think she is the second. Now, this is what I heard. You know, I don't have the numbers to crunch myself. But what I heard was she is the second most financially, how do you say it? After Oprah, she is the most successful financially entertainer. She's second after Oprah.
She's the richest female musician in the world. Let that sink in.
And that's crazy. And to be, as far as entertainment across the board of entertainment, that's so many things. For entertainment to be second after Oprah, y'all know Oprah got the coins.
Right, because Oprah got dibbling, dabbling, and everything.
Everything. Yeah, that's amazing. But let that just be, you know, a testimony. Like, just because you're good at something doesn't mean you can't venture outside of that.
That is so true. And it's okay to take a break sometimes and pursue one thing and then come back to something else. Because she took a break. She came out with Fenty Beauty. She came out with the lingerie line. And now I could take an album. Okay?
Right.
Because now that all these businesses...
Come back.
Right. Now that all these other businesses are prospering, give us our album, sis. I'm tired of you doing features. Give me my album.
That's so funny. But yeah, congrats to her.
Yeah, you were right. The second wealthiest after Oprah.
Amazing.
That is amazing.
And just a little fun fact. I don't think most people know this, and I'm pretty sure. Let me fact check myself.
I'm pretty sure you're about to say what I was literally just about to say.
A lot of people don't know this, but Rihanna is actually Guyanese.
I was literally going to say that.
So shout out to all my Guyanese people. Yes.
Oh, yes. I was literally about to say the same thing. How we have the same thought pop into our head.
That's crazy. That's that vibe.
Right.
Most people don't know that, but Rihanna is Guyanese.
Who is it that's Guyanese? Is it her mom or her dad?
I believe it's her mother.
Okay. Yes. So that means she is Guyanese.
Yeah.
I know, because people always be like, well, she's Bajan this, Bajan that. No, sis, she's half Guyanese too, okay?
Exactly.
Give us our props.
Give us our props. But all right, you guys, thank you for rocking with us on our vent session today. We had some things we just wanted to get off our chest and talk about.
Right. I feel a little better.
I too. I feel better. That was good. I mean, sometimes you just need to release stuff. You might not be able to control it or control the outcome, but just let it go. Let it out.
So before we go, we want to leave you guys with our weekly mantra. And this week's mantra is, it never gets easier, you just get stronger. One more time. It never gets easier, you just get stronger.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So don't give up.
Right. Because look at all the things that you've overcome already. It didn't get easier. You just figured out a way and you got stronger.
Exactly. All right, you guys. So thank you again for sticking with us to another episode here on Mom Sleep Podcast. If you want to stay updated, remember, follow us on Instagram at Mom Sleep Pod. That's MOMSLYPOD.
And subscribe to our YouTube channel at Mom Sleep Podcast. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, not music, podcasts, make sure you rate and review our podcast so other people can see it in the algorithms.
Yes. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next Wednesday.
See ya. Bye.
Ciao.